Good morning everyone, how's it going? It's a random Thursday afternoon and probably not the best place to vlog. I'm gonna wait till I make this corner to continue this thing. Nice, all the cars passed. The one thing about being a new dad is that I just don't have a lot of time, and obviously I don't want to make these videos like outdoors. You know, it's kind of awkward making them, but I want to continue making them because I enjoy the editing process and you know, and releasing it and seeing what people think and things like that. So it's a lot of fun making these videos. So but yeah, one thing I realized is I just don't have a lot of time. You know, my weekends are usually full of doing baby duties and going out with my wife, and you know, it's all a privilege really. I get to spend a lot of time with my family, but you know, it leaves very little time for these videos. So anyways, I thought I would just kind of try to make more videos on the go. So recently a lot of people have, again, kind of, it's weird, all these like career questions and like people reaching out for help seems to come in waves, where it's quiet for a little bit and out of nowhere like 5 or 6 people just reach out to me asking very similar questions about how did you know, make it into the industry, tell me about your boot camp, etc, etc. And maybe it has to do with the change of weather or something like that, but yeah, it got me to like start thinking about my journey again and how I made this transition into becoming a software engineer. And I think like one of the big things that I was thinking about today, what was the hardest part about making the transition? And that's what I wanted to talk about today. So I think by far one of the hardest things to do when you're trying to make some kind of career change in any field really, is to get relevant experience. For example, like programming is hard, yes, but you can study that on your own. You could get that like knowledge on your own. But with work experience, you really can't do that all by yourself. You really need to put yourself out there and get hired as like some intern or something like that. But it's generally really hard to find that first experience if you don't have a traditional background per se. It's not necessarily like a straightforward thing. So I thought I would kind of talk about some of the things that I did myself to get that experience, and I could talk about some of the things that I tried, and I could also talk about some of the things that didn't work. Oh, it's awkward. There's people behind me. Made it onto the train. Super busy. You know, the train ride is always like not my favorite part, but it's better than like driving. So I am going to take some time and edit, and I'm gonna edit, you know, some videos or something like that. But see you on the other side. Everyone's always in such a rush in the city. I am as well. You know, there's something about like vlogging in the city where it's not as awkward as vlogging in the suburbs. I think it kind of has to do with like public, it's like social norms, I guess. It's like I could be just like a vlogger, I could just be a tourist or something like that, and people are just so busy, you know, rushing to their jobs or whatever, that they don't really care if you're vlogging. But in the suburbs, like if you're whip out a camera and you're like filming, they're like, hey, why are you filming my house or something like that. I don't know. It's just like kind of a random thing that makes me awkward to vlog in the suburbs or something like that. Capital One Cafe reopening in SF. Hello. Wow.
Yeah, it looks great. We can email that to you too.
No, like on my way back home. So let's talk a little bit about like the subject matter at hand today. I think like the most important thing is GitHub. I think GitHub is your best friend when you don't have an employer, because using GitHub you can start creating kind of this image of yourself. Essentially, you can, you know, everyone says, you know, contribute to open source projects, but to be honest, that's kind of hard to do, but you can make your own projects. Like just start making good code, make good commit logs, you know, try to, for whatever you're doing, try to be like very intentional. Like intentional. So I did a video on making like good PRs, so you should, you know, take a look at that video. But the whole idea, general concept is that like you should really treat engineering and like programming as a craft of some sort, because the more you think about that as like a skill set in this craft, and you know, you want to keep increasing your professionalism, and you show that in your work, it'll be a lot easier for other like employers to look at your code on GitHub and say, hey, I think this guy knows what he's doing, you know. Because just like a resume, people don't spend that much time like analyzing your code. So every little bit in your GitHub profile that looks like you know, belong in the industry, it will be just all that much helpful for you. So I guess that's like a good starting point, and just mindset in general, to really like care about the projects you're working on, and also, you know, making sure your GitHub is on point. Another like really important thing that you should try to do is finding internships or any kind of like real sizable projects, right? In the beginning when you're learning, it would be actually really intimidating to try to sign up for a project, but at a certain point you just kind of have to take that leap and, you know, contribute to a real project. And so use your connections, use whatever you can to essentially get yourself on some project, whether that be a hackathon, or maybe it could start out as a hackathon, or, you know, you go to meetups, meet people and things like that. And, you know, if you just keep pushing yourself enough to be out there and put yourself out there, you'll make those connections eventually. Got right on this train for like an hour, and then I'll be walking home. This commute is really long. So I just got home. My wife is currently out. She's hanging out with a friend of hers. Let me make sure. I think she's having a play date with some friends right now. So I thought I would take this opportunity when the house is quiet and, you know, the kids are not running around, to finish up this video. So the hardest thing, as I was saying, about getting that experience when you don't have any experience is it's really takes a lot of courage. Put your best foot forward and, you know, reach out to as many people, find mentors, and try to get as much experience as possible. And any little bit will help. And one nice thing to know is that the previous experience that you have in whatever field that you were in, some of that will transfer over. So I know it may be really hard to find that experience that you need to really land that first gig, but you're not gonna get it by just never trying. So vlogging today slash kind of talking about this problem has been pretty challenging today. It's kind of hard to make a video that's like starts in the beginning of the day and you try to kind of concretely talk about it in this kind of long period of time, right? Because I forget where I left off and things like that. But anyways, I remember like a long time when I was first starting out and I was trying to get some more experience. I would, you know, build apps with my friends who are engineers already, and essentially they were building it and I was kind of helping along. And I was always kind of like trying to push them to help me build these apps that I wanted to like put on my resume essentially. But, you know, if you have that, you know, explain to them like the situation and you're trying to learn and trying to get experience and work on like more projects. And hopefully you have good friends around you to be able to do that. If you don't, then, you know, join a meetup or find some online community, join like a Discord server or something like that, that has like, that kind of cultivates this kind of like culture of getting, you know, new engineers, junior engineers experience that they need so that they feel more comfortable and confident applying to jobs and going to interviews, and they're able to like talk about you know, like legitimate projects that they worked on. And that's the key, like having a legitimate project that you could talk about and you could, you know, reference back to, you know, say, hey, I like worked on this particular integration and it was a really interesting problem and I was able to create this kind of impact for the project. And, you know, having any amount of experience is such a big deal for like to get an engineering job. It's kind of crazy because the number one thing I would say, if you could take anything out of like this whole conversation, is that there, like currently the unemployment rate is like basically 0%. It's like unprecedented, right? But and for engineers especially, it's even like crazier. Like you get so many requests from LinkedIn and things like that, where people are just reaching out constantly saying, hey, I have this job, I have that job, hey, you know, I'm sure you get a bunch of emails, but you know, come interview at my company. And there's just so much opportunity everywhere because everyone's hiring all the time. And there's just not enough like supply of good engineers to fill that void. So the thing is, a lot of people will just jump into like trying to become engineers. And one thing that they always miss is that yes, the job market is like very plentiful, but it's mainly reserved right now for experienced engineers. So if you're thinking about going into this, you really need to focus on that. Like, to find a good job, the number one thing you need is experience. Because if you have a good experience and you can show that in your resume, you'll be able to get probably, at least you'll be able to get your foot in the door for an interview. And number two, you need to know your data structures and algorithms to be able to pass the interview. But that's not all they test you on for these coding interviews, because you know, your experience matters again. So they'll ask you about the projects that you solved and what specific role you were on that project and what kind of problem you ended up like solving and what kind of impact you had on that particular project, right? So always be kind of thinking about how can you structure your studies and structure your experiences and your time essentially to be able to meet the right people and you know, work on the right projects. And how can you, you know, socially wiggle your way into like some open source project or something like that. Basically what I'm trying to say is, don't only focus on learning a programming language. You have to really think holistically about this transition. So that's about it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This was kind of like a vlog slash mix with some like career advice, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm trying to do more videos and I'm gonna squeeze them in wherever I can, because you know, it's pretty fun. And if I don't make these videos, all I'm gonna do is just lay down and watch like Netflix or something and waste all my time, and I don't want to do that. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this quick video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.